is going down? Niner Empire, YouTube. It is your boy Danny G TV in the house. I just had to come on here and chime in with the big news this week of the 49ers re-signing Jimmy Garoppolo to a restructured 1-year, $6.5 million deal with a no trade clause to be Trey Lance's backup, which I think is absolutely perfect. Now, for the past few months, I was kind of hoping that this would somehow happen, but I did not think it would be realistic for many different reasons. Now, of course, last year in the 2021 draft, the Niners gave up a bunch of future draft picks for the number 3rd overall pick, where they drafted Trey Lance to be the future, but of course the plan was for Jimmy to be the starter last year and for Trey to sit on the bench and learn a little bit from him and get ready to be the starter this season, the 2022-2023 season. Now, of course, the Niners made it to the NFC Championship game last year with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. Now, is he the main factor? Not necessarily, but he was still the quarterback of the team that made it to the NFC Championship game. And I actually think that part of the reason why he struggled quite a bit in the playoffs, especially in that Packers game, is because he just was not fully healthy. Now, in my opinion, I think Trey should have actually, in that Texans game on Christmas Eve, when Jimmy was just absolutely struggling, I think that Kyle should have benched Jimmy and let Trey come in and see what he could have done. Now, of course, I think that Jimmy, being fully healthy, should have been the starter with being more experienced, but I think they should have gone with the most healthiest quarterback they possibly had last year. But that being said, Jimmy, I have absolute confidence that if anything, God forbid, were to happen to Trey Lance, that Jimmy could take over and the Niners would be just fine. Now, his contract was restructured from $24 million to $6.5 million, but he could make up to $10 million in incentives depending on how many games he were to play. Now, if somehow, again, God forbid Trey has a devastating season-ending injury and Jimmy starts most of the games, he would make up to $16 million. And if somehow Trey were to just be out for 3 or 4 games or something like that, then Jimmy would make somewhere between $6 million and $16 million. But if somehow Trey were to be out for like a few games, like let's say Trey's just absolutely tearing it up and it's week 5, but then he gets some kind of freak injury, but it's not that bad, he's only out for 3 or 4 games, Jimmy could absolutely take over and the Niners would be just fine. That's what the beauty of this is. Now, if somehow this did not happen, if somehow we had cut Jimmy before the Tuesday, which would have been the deadline to have the full 53-man roster in effect, and let's say he went to Seattle, which would have been absolutely devastating, they could have potentially beaten us week 2. I don't think they would have. I think we probably still would have beaten them, but it still isn't good to have, your quarterback knows your system going on a division rival. That's definitely not what you would want to happen. But let's just say he went to like any other team. Now, in that case, you would be relying on Brock Purdy to take over for Trey and lead the Niners to the playoffs, which just would not happen. Now, and that's nothing against Brock Purdy. Like, Brock Purdy has played pretty well in the preseason. He's a local Arizona kid here. I expect him to have a decent NFL career, but he's just not ready yet. He just isn't. Now, you might say that, oh, well, what about Trey? Trey doesn't have that much more experience. He's only started 2 games. He's 1-1. Like, well, Trey's the number 3 overall pick, okay? That's a little bit different. But, hey, football's a violent game. Injuries happen. I don't expect Trey to be injured. I expect him to start all 17 games. But, hey, this offensive line needs to be better, too, because if the offensive line is going to struggle, it doesn't really matter who's quarterbacking. It doesn't, But if Trey, again, were to get injured, Jimmy is a perfect insurance policy. Because how perfect is it to have a backup quarterback that knows your system, that quarterbacked your team to a Super Bowl and then to an additional NFC Championship game? How awesome is that to have that as your backup quarterback? Like, that's just the best thing ever. Because if somehow they were relying on Brock Purdy to be the starter, then the season would just be absolutely over. It would be. It would just be like when Jimmy got injured in 2018 in that Chiefs game. It would be a repeat of that, which John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan just did not want to have happen, so they did the best that they could. They tried to. Now, of course, the plan was, and this is what I expected to happen. This was what most of the fan base expected to happen. after the season was over, everyone expected that the Niners would have traded Jimmy for some kind of assets, maybe even for some of their draft picks back, some of their first, like a first or second round pick that they traded away to get Trey Lance. But of course, that didn't happen. Jimmy was not fully healthy. Jimmy had to have shoulder surgery, so he wouldn't have been healthy by the time any team could have used him in training camp. So he just remained on this roster still. But even like last week, everyone expected him to be. I personally kind of had a feeling that this could happen by last week, but the majority of people thought that he would just be cut, since no team would probably want to trade for him if they realize he's going to be cut anyway. So I and most and a lot of the fan base kind of had an idea that he would likely be cut by Tuesday, but thankfully that did not happen. They worked with Jimmy. They were able to get him a restructured deal to keep him on this team. He's fine with it. He knows exactly the situation, and he just proved how selfless of a person he is, just how much of a class act he is to do what was best for him, of course, but also best for the team. Because, of course, it was best for him to, if he's not fully healthy, to sit on the bench a little bit, get healthy, be a contributing factor. If they need to have him for relief, he can come in anytime. But it wouldn't be bad for him to just sit on the bench for the entire year if he needs to get healthy, too. So it's the best situation for him, but it's also the best situation for the team because they have that insurance policy that they need, the perfect one. Now there's people on here being like, oh, did they do this just because they don't think Trey's ready? Like there's a Bears fan on here that was in my live stream when I talked about this that basically said that they're doing this because they don't have faith in Trey Lance yet. Well, the 49ers are a Super Bowl contending team. If anything were to happen to Justin Fields, the Bears' season would not make any difference because the Bears are not a contending team anyway. That's the difference. The Niners want the best players possible on the 53-man roster because they're a team that made it to the NFC Championship game, that were damn close to make it to the Super Bowl. And the only reason that Jimmy struggled so much in that Rams game that I flew to LA to go to, well, or no, he didn't struggle that much in that game overall. Like, he did better. He actually did better in that game. But the reason why he struggled in that postseason, though, in those other playoff games, especially in that Packers game, I think it's because he just was not fully healthy. But the fact that he was able to start those games anyway, despite not being fully healthy, just proves how much of a warrior he absolutely is. But again, you might sound like, oh, I'm just a Jimmy fanboy. Like, no. When Jimmy struggles, I will call him out. I wanted Kyle Shanahan to bench Jimmy in that Week 17 game against the Rams when he just was looking so bad at the beginning, and especially with Trey Lance having started that Texans game the week before and having won that game. I know it's the Texans, but still, I wanted Trey to come in when Jimmy struggled. That's what I wanted to happen. But I'm not Kyle Shanahan. He made his call. He kept him in there, and we won that game. We go to the playoffs. We beat the Cowboys in that wild card game, beat the Packers in that divisional game, and then come pretty close to beating the Rams in that NFC Championship game. Like, yes, I was there. He did throw the interception that ultimately did cost the game. Yes, he did. Not going to deny that. But he was the only factor. Niners blew a 17-7 lead. And so there were a lot of other factors in it as well. And like I said, if Jimmy was fully healthy, I expect he would have not made the mistakes that he made. But that's all beside the point, okay? Because, hey, Trey Lance, what I'm expecting, and this is what me as a Niner fan and what every Niner fan should hope for, is that he just starts all 17 games and he's fully healthy and he looks absolutely great and he tears it apart. He tears up the league. He lights it up. That's what everyone is hoping for. Everyone who's a 49er fan, that's what they're hoping for. But now I do not expect Trey to be benched but just by poor performance, unless the performance is so poor that it's like 3 games into the year or something and it's just not clicking at all. It just does not look like he has any rhythm going. That's the only way that I would expect them to just bench Trey and put in Jimmy. Other than that, I don't expect Trey to be benched because of poor performance. Now, he's not going to be perfect. He's basically a rookie. He's only started 2 games, 2 NFL games. He's going to make rookie mistakes. But I expect him to be pretty damn good. I expect him to, he has the perfect opponent with the Bears week 1. That should be an easy win. And then, Seahawks week 2. Those 2 games should be easy 2-0 starts. And I'm actually flying to Denver to go to that Broncos game week 3, so I'm really looking forward to that. Trey against Russell Wilson, that'll be epic. But, by the way, Justin Fields against Trey week 1 will actually be pretty interesting too, because, some people, including me too, kind of wanted Justin Fields to be the quarterback. But Trey Lance and Justin Fields are very similar players. I expect Trey to be a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, like Kyler Murray, like Kaepernick in 2012 and 2013. But I expect him to be better than Kyler Murray, for example, and I expect him to be just as good, if not better, than Lamar Jackson. But it's going to take time. It definitely is going to take time. And that's why the Niners kept Jimmy, because they have a veteran quarterback to back up your basically rookie quarterback. How incredible is that? But anyway, looking forward to the season. Cannot wait. Hey, the Super Bowl is going to be in Arizona this year, where I live. So I'm absolutely hoping that we can win our 6th ring right here. And I have this, I'm not making any guarantees, but I have some strange feeling that this might be the year. I just do. But anyway, that's all I got. Danny G is out. Niner Empire. 1 team, 1 family, 1 goal. I'm out. Peace!